Much to everyone for coming. My name is Tim Goodall. I am the coordinator of Headingley Green Party, so the local Green Party.
Yay!
And I was the candidate in Headingley High Park at the local elections. Thank you very much to everyone who voted Green in the local elections. We increased our vote share again, and we'll be working very, very hard next year to win the seat. So thanks very much for everyone's support. And if anyone wants to get involved locally, you're very, very welcome. Come and see us at the front and we can take your name. So today we're here to talk about the European elections, and I'm going to introduce Louise, and then Majid's going to speak after that. Just a few words from me. Obviously, massively important. Something I experienced a couple of years living in Spain. Just being able to go to Spain, such an easy thing to do. Okay, you had to do a little identity card, things like that. But I've got a reunion of friends who I was in Madrid with. They're coming to Leeds this weekend. Last time we did a reunion was the weekend after the Brexit vote. We met up with all our friends who were from all around Europe in Madrid, and they all just looked at us and said, "What have you done?" And we all said, "It wasn't us." And you know, they just felt so sad for the UK, for everyone here, that we were going to lose those opportunities that we've had. Something that people haven't talked about very much is the NHS.
No.
I know that all the Conservatives, the Brexit Party, if we leave Europe, first thing they want to do, privatise the NHS. It's so important. Green Party policy, NHS is kept public. Really, really important to think about all the other issues. It's not just about whether we leave Europe or not. It's a really good chance, who knows, we could actually stay in Europe. There's a really good chance we could. We've got really, really good candidates that are thinking about all the policies, not just talking about whether we want to leave or not. So please do read all the information and take it all in and think about all the policies, but not just about whether you want to leave or remain. I'm not going to talk for ages. I'm actually Vice President of the University branch of the University and Colleges Union, and we've got our AGM at 3:45, so I'm leaving here, so I won't be able to stay, sorry. I've got to leave here and go to the AGM for that. But it's great to see so many people here, and thank you so much for coming. So I'm now going to introduce Louise Horton, who is one of our candidates.
Fantastic. The last time we were on a stage or a plinth like this, Majid had just done the London Marathon, having had absolutely zero training beforehand. And every time he climbed onto the stage, he kind of did this and went back again. It was very funny to watch. I have never done politics before at all until the referendum. So we are talking about a lot of the policies here, but actually this was my motivating factor. I joined the Green Party because they were fighting for a People's Vote and for Remain, and then that wasn't good enough, so I started the People's Vote South and West Yorkshire, which is similar to Leeds for Europe, modelled on Leeds for Europe, but based in Barnsley and Wakefield and Pontefract. Did anyone see that Farage Brexit Party footage from Featherstone this week? No, okay, it's done a bit of the rounds. It's the classic. They've had their rally, they went to Huddersfield, and they met a lot of people saying, "We want out! Leave means leave, WTO. We don't care." We met some people yesterday, no, 2 days ago, from the English Democrats who are saying, "We don't care if the economy takes a hit. We want out, we wanted to leave." And I don't like getting into arguments with people. I just very gently said that we do care. And my child cares, and the future of our country cares. So I started the People's Vote South and West Yorkshire, and we're out every weekend campaigning to Remain. That's been our focus. And then we looked like we were joining the EU elections, and I stood as an MEP candidate up against the most fantastic candidate that we could ever hope to have. We had our internal elections, and Majid polled, I don't know, almost 400 votes to my 50 or 40 or something. The others got like 100 and something. It was just no comparison. The absolute wave of support for him is phenomenal. And so we wanted, in a very short space of time, to do a Tour de Majid, inspired by, of course, Tour de Yorkshire. And we've been taking him around Doncaster and Sheffield and Bradford. We went to Otley. He then came down with a horrible, horrible cold, and we had to give him the day off yesterday when he said goodbye to Sheffield as Lord Mayor there. But he's back again today, and we have a punishing schedule ahead of us. We're in Leeds again on Saturday, Wakefield and Barnsley tomorrow, and we're in York and Hull. We're even climbing, it's the Cow and Calf Rock at Otley to have a look at the peat bogs up there. So we've got a punishing schedule, and I'm with Majid along the way and discovering how phenomenal a candidate he is. He is the person we need to have as an MEP candidate in Yorkshire, because he does do politics differently. And I don't want to take the words out of his mouth, but I'm stealing what he's going to say now, because he is different, and he has fought for Sheffield and now wants to fight for this region and will make this region visible in the EU. And when Tim says we may stay in, if we have our way, we will stay in the EU, because we will fight our damnedest to do that. A year ago, people thought that Leeds for Europe out there in the streets every weekend were absolute nutters. They thought the fact that they were going to get a second referendum, there was no chance. And now we're not just talking about it, but people actually think this is going to happen. And they said, Keir Starmer said in Parliament this week, there is no deal that will get through in Parliament without a confirmatory ballot attached to it, without a people's vote. So we are so close. And this, the final thought from me on this is that the EU elections this next week now, are not the referendum. It's not win or lose. There will be some MEP candidates going to the Brexit Party, and we hope to get as many as possible for Remain parties, for Green, for Lib Dem, obviously all for Green, but Green, Lib Dem, Change. Remain parties are the ones to vote for, and the overall share of the Remain vote is what counts. Clearly, without a shadow of a doubt, Majid is the best candidate, and he is the one that we want to vote for. Not just the Remain message, but the phenomenal Green message that he will also talk to you about now. So without a doubt it's him, but don't despair when it comes to these elections, because it's the Remain vote that counts, and we'll be going into that, and then we'll be up and ready for when it comes to the referendum campaign, because we'll know what we're doing and we'll be out campaigning all on the same side, all the Remain parties. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the person you came to hear today, I hope, because he's absolutely phenomenal. I'll give you Majid.
Woo! Hello. Thank you so much, Louise, for that very, very warm introduction. And thanks to all of you guys, first and foremost, for also joining us in this glorious sunny day in Leeds. So, and for those of you who I've not had the pleasure of meeting before, my name is Majid. And for those who I have had the pleasure of meeting, my name is still Majid. But honestly, it gives me really great pleasure to be here today. I know Louise just touched upon it, and I was the Lord Mayor of Sheffield as of yesterday, but what I'm hoping to do today is just tell you a bit more about myself, how I got involved in politics, but also why I'm actually standing in the EU elections in the first place. So I was born in a country called Somalia in East Africa, and actually came to Sheffield as a refugee when I was actually 5 years old. And for those that don't know, Sheffield's also known as the first city of sanctuary, because it's got a very long, rich history in actually welcoming people from all across the world. And because of that, we actually could have ended up anywhere in the world. So we actually ended up in Sheffield. And despite what certain media outlets and tabloids actually tell you, nobody really chooses to leave their home, their family, their friends, had it not been for some sort of real necessity in the first place. And grew up in Sheffield, and as normally, and of course coming to the country, couldn't speak any English, but I guess you learn to adapt in your environments. And I went to university in a different part of the region called Hull, which is in East Yorkshire, which Louise also studied, funny enough. And long story short, I actually didn't know what I wanted to study at university, but I knew the opportunities that university was actually going to give me. And I actually studied aquatic zoology in the University of Hull. And I think it was just a bit of desperation, actually not knowing what to study. Fully well knowing I didn't expect a career in marine biology or conservation. I just knew I wanted to go to university, but it was at university I actually had my first, I guess, activism kind of moment of actually wanting to change something. And that came about when I actually started a mixed martial arts club at the University of Hull. And because when I started the sports club up, it was really poor sports provision, bad training time. So I actually collaborated with lots of other sports clubs that actually work together to get better sports provision. And for those that kind of know, my Twitter handle is Magic Majid, which is abbreviated from my fight name that was given to me, which was Magic Majid the Submission Magician, because I used to win a lot of my fights by submitting people, but that's a different story in itself. But actually from there, when I actually got more involved in my students' union, stood for student union president, got elected. But even when I was at university, in all honesty, I didn't know much about politics. I couldn't even tell you the difference between left and right, but I knew about the issues that mattered to me the most. Like, I wanted to eradicate the hidden cost of university fees, campaign for free education, and all of that stuff. But the first time I actually got involved in party politics was 2014, at the last European elections, funny enough. And it was that time watching the rise of UKIP and your Nigel Farage, and just seeing so much rhetoric of hate, fear and division, and just remember thinking to myself, with all this happening around the country, around Europe, if I can at least make my small part of the world, Sheffield, my community, that bit better, that's at least me contributing and having a positive impact on those around me. And then that's when I actually discovered the Green Party, and actually ended up joining the Green Party, just because a lot of my morals and values and principles best aligned with the Green Party. And of course, they had a red line of always being the party against austerity, regardless of who our leader was. The fact that they campaigned for free education, the fact that they actually want to keep the NHS public at all costs, but also even the way that the party is run, the fact that it is members driven, like, so the fact that it's members that decide what the party policy is, and the leaders are there just to represent it, kind of told me that I had a bigger voice within my party in the first place. And in all honesty, when the opportunity, so I actually touch up on the fact that I was actually Lord Mayor of Sheffield, and again, the reason I actually put myself forward for that, when I actually got elected, go back a bit, I got elected as a councillor, Green Party councillor in Sheffield in 2016, and I guess another reason why I actually got more involved is the fact that I just couldn't keep on asking the wrong people to do the right thing. And I think if we look at all forms of government, whether that be local government or national government, the people that we choose to actually be our leaders don't reflect the people that are there to represent. So I actually wanted to get on the council and give a voice to a lot of people who I thought weren't being represented on Sheffield City Council. And then the opportunity of Lord Mayor presented itself, and I kind of went with that. And I got elected as Lord Mayor last year in 2018. And that again in itself has been an absolutely crazy year for those that have managed to kind of follow up on what things have been going on with that. And in honesty, just one of the many things I've kind of learned during my time as Lord Mayor is, first of all, people don't necessarily remember what you say, but they remember how you make them feel. So I would always make a really concerted effort in really trying to engage people on an emotional level, and actually try and bring people with me everywhere I go, because people really need to see themselves in you, and I think with that needs to be a level of authenticity that people can actually see, therefore would want to actually lend you their vote and actually will listen to you. But not only that, it's like compassion. That's something I'm always a big advocate of, because I guess especially in the current political times that we're living in, of course things are polarised, things are difficult, which I guess forces us to be collaborative, work together, but most importantly of all, to show compassion, because compassion is the ultimate manifestation of strength. And I think that's something that kind of keeps on getting forgotten about during this political time that we're actually living in. And another thing I've actually learned is that cake is a coping mechanism. I've literally had a lot of different cake throughout my time in the past couple of years, but in all honesty, we need our coping mechanisms. We need to actually look out and care for each other again and again, just to kind of show each other that solidarity first and foremost. And I was actually looking forward to a bit of a break. I thought, right, my time as Lord Mayor has come to an end. I'm going to just catch up with a lot of family and friends that I've neglected in the past year or two. And I guess there's just something that kind of compels us each to act. And I just remember just thinking, oh no, maybe I'm just not done yet, I just want to do so much more. Then the opportunity of becoming an MEP actually brought itself, and then of course with some encouragement of some friends, I thought, right, let me put myself forward. And thankfully to the people, Green Party members of Yorkshire and Humber, and elected me to be their lead Green candidates. And now we're on this amazing journey, and of what's been a very short journey in all honesty, just going around the entire region of just really getting our message of hope and to as many people as possible. And I'll be the first one to say, in honesty, that the EU, European Union project, is not perfect. It is not a safe haven of progressive ideas. But at the same time, I understand that we're better off being part of the European Union. Issues like air pollution, climate change, security, they have no borders. And we're actually better off actually being part of this community, working together and actually trying to bring about the change so we are living and working towards a healthier, happier, more kinder European Union that we actually want. So, no, thank you very much. So, honestly, join us in this campaign and feel free to like take a poster. We've got lots of posters for people to take. And I realise I'm rambling on for too long, but if anyone's got any questions, please, by all means, please do stand up and ask any questions. Thank you very much.
Woo! What? Sorry. What's your view on the Extinction Rebellion?
You know what? What's your name, sorry? Maya. Thank you for your question, Maya. I'm a massive advocate and in favour of non-violent direct action. So, in all honesty, anything that kind of helps us with our cause. Let's be honest, of course there was a lot of, you had like your David Attenborough documentary that got a lot of people talking about climate change. You had your youth climate strikes, which was absolutely amazing. But also Extinction Rebellion that did an absolutely amazing campaign, not just in the UK, but all across the country. And had it not been for them, it would not have been dominated by the news for an entire week straight and actually putting climate change at the forefront of people's conversations in the news rather than everything. So I'm completely in favour of Extinction Rebellion. At times, what I do think about as well, in all honesty, is if you think about climate change really disproportionately affects people from a BME background, people from working class backgrounds, and at times I do feel as if like their voices aren't being represented enough within the climate change movement. I think that's something as a movement that we need to get better at, but as a whole I'm massively in favour of the action. There are people moan and complain about, oh well, they're causing traffic, I can't get into work and it's causing a nuisance, but we've got a bigger issue to tackle in all honesty. And it's not scaremongering when people say it is literally as simple as action or extinction. We've only got 11 very short years to actually do something about it. And one thing I'm proud about being in the Green Party is the fact that where we lead, other people follow. Like we were the first party to actually call for a climate emergency motion, and now it's great to see other political parties actually calling on a climate emergency. So hopefully that's been amazing, and hopefully we can all collectively work together to actually bring an end to climate change. And even with this European election, I genuinely believe this is a European election where we tell our grandchildren when we tell our grandchildren about years to come, and hopefully we'll be telling stories of how we actually ended climate change dead in its tracks, how we actually stopped the rise of the far right all across Europe. So it really, really is important, and hopefully we will elect Yorkshire and Humber's first Green representative in the European Parliament.
Woohoo! Any more questions?
For me, I don't need that, I can shout. For me, like, I'm a dedicated vegan, and that is solely the way we will tackle a lot of things. Could the Green Party support that?
So, and what's your name? Matty. Matty says he's a vegan and he thinks that's one of the best ways to resolve some of the climate change issues that we've got. So how can the Green Party support?
How can we support it?
Okay, how can we support it?
I'm Green Party, so how can we demonstrate as a group, as a party,
yeah,
to really push it out to the young ones?
Yeah.
I'm fully aware.
Yeah, you know, honestly, like I think there's a lot of great work that our leader like Sean Berry and Jonathan Bartley have been doing, actually trying to get that message across, the fact that we need to reduce our meat consumption. I understand and appreciate it's hard for people just to go from eating meat to not eating meat, especially living in a country where meat consumption has been such a big part of our culture for so many years. But you're right, it really, really is important, the fact that we actually reduce. I know there's certain initiatives like Meat-Free Mondays, and honestly, even within my own circles, it's great to see the fact that a lot of friends are reducing the amount of meat they eat, like actually making commitments like they're not going to eat meat at home, but they might eat meat when they eat out. But you're right, we do need to move towards this, and you know, honestly, but at the same time, there's only so much that us people can do. We do need to take on and basically bigger companies, bigger organisations, the government and whatnot. But yeah, 100% I'd like to think we can all do our bit more, and hopefully a lot more people will go vegan at some point. Cheers.
Any other questions?
Hello. Oh, bloody hell, that's loud. Hi. It's not directly related to climate change or the EU. Sorry, it's a little bit niche. Related to wider Green Party policy. I've been a lifelong Green Party supporter, but I'm also a business owner. I've noticed quite a few of your policies are very anti-zero-hour contracts. I get there are big corporations, big companies that are exploiting zero-hour contracts. My business relies on them. We do security for events and places like this. If there's not an event on, they don't do security. A lot of my guys are students doing it as supplemental income, retired people doing it as supplemental income. How are the Green Party planning on cracking down on companies that do abuse zero-hour contracts and similar things, while still maintaining that small business owners like myself, small venues like this, can still maintain adequate staffing without their costs increasing massively? Yeah. Sorry, it is a little bit niche, yeah.
What's your name, sorry?
Chris.
Chris, hi Chris. Mate, I completely understand in the sense, because I've got a lot of student friends who rely on zero-hour contract because they can't afford to do full-time jobs. So zero-hour contracts in certain aspects are really preferable for a lot of different people, like you said, and it's just not students, it's people from whatever background. But I think the whole point of trying to tackle zero-hour contracts is, like you said, there are a lot of big business, a lot of kind of organisations that abuse them, where people with families don't know if they're going to be earning enough money to actually feed their children the next day or the next week. So there is this aspect of how can we provide stability and security for families without having to make it difficult for small business owners and like yourself, but also to ordinary people that also rely on zero-hour contracts. I don't think there's an easy way to fix it, in all honesty, but you're right, we do need to kind of make sure that we are looking at both sides of the argument, and that's something I'd like to think that other kind of leaders in the Green Party are also kind of looking at, because we do understand both aspects of it. But you're right, we shouldn't be neglecting, as well as taking on zero-hour contracts, we shouldn't be neglecting people like yourselves in the course of it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
The lady at the back. I don't think if the mic can reach, can it go that far?
Exactly, yes. You've everyone enough to live on. And then leave the rest to market forces, a bit of erratic marks.
I've always been a Green Party supporter, but I'm worried that with the rise of the sort of Nigel Farage's party and sort of Leave parties and the opinion polls, that the Green Party won't be able to sort of command a majority in the elections as a sort of pro-Remain party, and so I'm sort of torn as to whether I'm going to vote Green or a sort of party like the Lib Dems that have a slightly wider sort of base. So what would you say to someone like me who's sort of torn in that way?
They don't.
Start answering that as I head back to Majid, because you're absolutely right. So first of all, if we get to this is the first step. So if we get Remain candidates into the European Parliament, that's the first step. In which case, if we can fight a referendum and win it, then there'll be more elections, and we can get. So at that point, we hope that we can then counter the rise of the far right and the number of Brexit Party candidates. When I said earlier, vote for Remain Party, that is the most important one. And taking off the Green hat, just vote for Remain Party. However, the Greens have as broad a range. We have 3 MEPs to the Lib Dems 1. Which a lot of people don't realise. So the Lib Dems would say we're the stronger party. In actual fact, in Europe, we're the stronger party. And we sit in 2 different blocks in the EU Parliament. So we sit in the Green bloc with a lot of the smaller parties. So we sit with the SNP and Plaid Cymru, whereas the Lib Dems sit in the ALDE, I think it's called, ALDE block in the Parliament. So it's worth checking out what their wider policies are in the European Parliament. But you're right, in terms of polling though, I would say that Change UK, and they're great candidates, but they're polling very poorly at the moment. They're not an established party. And the latest we heard is we may be able to, if their vote share drops, actually get 1 of the Lib Dems and 1 of Greens. So I would say, first of all, vote with your heart, because a vote for Remain counts. And then look and see who's stronger. in terms of the policies and polling, and both the Lib Dems and Greens are strong. We're now polling nationally better than the Conservatives, which is quite phenomenal, yeah. So I've probably taken everything that Majid wanted to say, because it's my favourite subject, but I'm going to hand it back anyway.
Cheers. Thank you so much for your question. You know, honestly, I feel as if, like, Brexit, I feel like the UK is having a bit of an identity crisis right now, and Brexit is at the epicenter of that. And with everything that's happening, it does feel as if, like, there is this real battle for the soul of Britain at the moment. I just refuse to believe that it belongs to the likes of Nigel Farage's, and I feel like we as Greens can actually tell a better story, a message of hope, of bringing people together. And I always get asked this, is the Green vote a wasted vote? And I always say, first and foremost, a wasted vote is a vote you don't believe in. So first of all, vote for what you genuinely believe in, because if everybody said that, we would not have had an MP like Caroline Lucas, because she's been absolutely amazing. But at the same time, like, ourselves and the Lib Dems are completely different. This EU election is so much more than just Brexit. They are for privatisation. Like, the Green Party is the only Remain party who's anti-austerity. So just because when we actually get to when we get to Europe, like Louise said, we'll be sitting on two different groups. So you're right, we're both for Remain, but we're Remain plus, because I'd like to think you're also anti-austerity and anti-privatisation, which the Lib Dems stand for. So, like I said, like, honestly, that's why I think the Green Party is the best progressive party to actually vote for in this European election, and hopefully we'll get a lot more people voting, and we'll get our MEP in the region.
I'll just add to that very quickly. Really, here in Yorkshire and Humber, we're very close to getting getting a Green MEP and a Lib Dem MEP. That's what we need to be fighting for, not squabbling over who's going to get one. We need to be going for two. And if everyone followed some of the tactical voting advice and all went Lib Dem, there's a very good chance the Greens could, and the Lib Dems could end up on getting one MEP but only having 2 or 3% extra. That doesn't count for anything, and the Greens just missing out. And if we hadn't tactically voted, we could have had an MEP each. So there's a real thing, vote Green. Don't end up getting persuaded to vote tactically, because nobody knows. There's 2.6 million households in Yorkshire and Humberside. You can't second guess what's going to be happening in this election. So please vote for this man here.
Sorry,
Any more questions?
Sorry, just one more thing. One of our members spotted that Ladbrokes had got Majid on 1 to 3 odds, and I'm not a betting person, but 1 to 3 odds. They were looking nationally at the more famous characters. And I have to say, until I was driving Majid around in my car the other day, I hadn't realised quite how famous he was. And I've now watched the Russell Howard show with him on it, with my son, and I'm now quite intimidated. Yeah, it's quite a cool show. He's very cool. But Ladbrokes had him as number 3 or 4. They had Nigel Farage as Goddard's and Anne Widdecombe, and another Brexiteer, and then they had Majid, and that was for nationally. So he really is the strongest candidate in Yorkshire. So you can vote with your heart and your head and everything else for Majid.
Anyone else like a question?
I have a general one. It's Mental Health Awareness Week this week, and obviously, you know, you've been putting yourself through a gruelling schedule at the moment. You've also been quite open about the abuse and the vile stuff that you've had to deal with. Are you doing okay? Have you got kind of things that can like keep you busy and happy and enjoying things still?
You need a hug. You've got many.
Group hug.
What's your name, sorry? Yeah, lovely to meet you, but thank you so much for your great question. Yeah, do you know, it's like online can be just a cesspit of hate at times, and so people always ask me, how do you just do with all the racism, the kind of abuse online with it all? And honestly, I always kind of comes down to the fact that my energy is limited, and I'd always rather just focus on the positive things. That's why you'll never see me debating or engaging with anything negative online, because first of all, nobody wins an online debate, so I just completely ignore it. And honestly, I just try and surround myself with good people. And of course there's times, of course I'm human, there's times where I do find things difficult, in all honesty, but I just try to remain positive, and especially throughout this campaign, honestly, for every negative message or hurtful comment, there's like 100 positive things, and it can be easy to forget about those positive things, but it's just trying to remain positive and focus on that. And yeah, I'm doing well. I think Louise is doing a good job of looking after me, but thank you so much. Any other questions?
Sheffield will keep you right, man.
But on that note, then, guys, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate you coming, and yeah, I'll be here for the rest of it. So yeah, much appreciated. That's it. Let me just take a quick selfie.